is, please feel free to put that in the chat. Glad that we are live. Please feel free to put that in the chat and I will do my best to make sure that it is mentioned / addressed in this meeting. But as Magali mentioned, thank you to each of you all. Thank you to each of you all who filled out the Google form so that we could know what we're going to go over today. And I did my best to pull that information over the weekend. So if you went in on like Monday or yesterday and you saw it wasn't accepting responses, I also encourage you to put whatever sort of topic or item, publicity related, that you need into the chat as well. So Magali, I'm assuming that we're good to go?
Yes, we are. Let me just do a quick intro for our new folks, and then I'll hand it right back over to you, Abria. So welcome everyone. As Abria stated, so happy to see quite a few new names from this series than we've seen before. So we don't typically have the time to do individual introductions. So hopefully you heard my earlier request for those on Facebook, as well as for those in the Zoom, to use the chat feature, the comment, to tell us who you are, tell us your business, etc. And just quickly a little bit about marketing outside the box. This is a program that we, Hustle Winston-Salem, host every single week, same time, same place, as we start to move out of, I don't like to use the word post-pandemic, but as we start to move out of this space of pandemic-ish that we're living in, you may start to see it looking a little bit more hybrid going forward. So we'll give you updates on that. But this month in particular, we've been doing proven PR for profit with the amazing, and I keep using the word amazing because I just can't think of another word to describe her, but the amazing Abria Armstrong. If you have not been with us these past 3 weeks, we do have all of the videos on our social media, on our Facebook page. They're being loaded to our YouTube page, and we also send them via email through our Hustle admin, Tasha, who just joined us. So you can definitely get all of those in addition to the presentations themselves. This program is put on by Hustle and the Foresight Tech Small Business Center. So we're happy to have them as a partner in that. And we're looking forward to you joining us next month. Next month, we are tackling TikTok for your business. So really get excited about that. But right now, I'm going to hand it over to Abria to close us out in this amazing series.
Thank you so much for the introduction and for the alley-oop, if you will. It's really been such a pleasure to be able to share this bit of expertise with you all. And because we are behind schedule, I am going to go ahead and just jump right into it. And because there are some new faces, I do quickly want to introduce myself. My name is Abria Armstrong. I have a master's degree in business management from Wake Forest. I've done marketing and ad copy work for organizations like Walmart, for Four Seasons, for Stainmaster. Most recently, I was with the Innovation Quarter. Right now, I primarily work for a municipal finance firm in DC, but I certainly have my own private business, and that's what part of this is a part of, is that branding, personal and small business branding company, which is called 91 to Infinity. So do know that if there is anything that you'll learn during this month of February of these 4 weeks that you would really love to apply to your business but need help doing that, do know that I am here to provide subsequent help, especially in the sort of more formal process, and we can really go through things together and build out whatever sort of publicity plans, media outreach plans that you need. So essentially, in short, I work for those big companies like Epic Records and Sony Music. I gleaned whatever insights I could, and now I'm going to share them with you. So again, thank you everyone who filled out the form. Super valuable information. It seemed like a lot of you all were particularly interested in particularly what I consider was week 2 and 3. So thinking about like the company fact sheets, product fact sheets, quotes, the press release format, as well as like press release outreach, like promotional plan, and even thinking about the media list and how do we build it out and in terms of who can I put on that list. And because we didn't get to go deep into it last week, I am going to start by talking about SEO. So for SEO, what the key thing here to mention is this idea of search browser. So whether it's your Google's, we're just going to primarily talk about Google because they have very specific algorithms. And so here's the thing about Google. So if you were to type in any search term, and just given who's here, I'm going to use Maurice as an example because he's into digital assets. So Maurice's company, for example, deals with, as I mentioned, digital assets, keywords here, cryptocurrency, NFTs. There are just like certain sort of keywords that are pillars of each of you all's business. Tasha, is this the other Tasha here, Trucking Tasha? Yes, she is, perfect. Tasha, I know we talked about like keywords like truck, or fleet management, driving while distracted. Think about all of those sort of specific things that people might be searching for on Google, and that will lead them to your company. So for me, it's words like personal branding, marketing, outreach, communications, community engagement. Those are the sorts of words that I want to make sure are on my website. Particularly, and there's two sort of key places to put this, and here's a super pro tip, so please write this down. Key places are in your menu items. So on your website, think about what your specific menu items are. And I probably should have pulled up my own website to sort of use it as an example. And those are actually what you want. Your keywords, your SEO keywords are actually what you want your menu items to be named. So, or somewhere in there, ideally. Otherwise, the other option, if it's not one of your menu item names, is to make sure that it is a header, as in large font in the way that the SEO is stylized here on this side. Make sure that it is a header on your home page. So you can certainly put it in like a body paragraph, like this paragraph down here, what would be considered a body paragraph. This middle line is what we will call a subhead, and the SEO is a headline. But you just really want to make sure that those keywords, NFT, trucking, branding, marketing, are somewhere in larger font. Doesn't necessarily need to be bold. Google algorithms don't pick that up, like bold versus italics. They don't understand that, but they do understand headlines. And so the Google algorithms, no one knows how they work except for Google. And so all you can do is essentially sort of figure out best practices for this. And so menu item names and header names are some of the best ones for that. And what I am also going to do is to drop, I might have to pause my share for a second. I want to drop a link to one of HubSpot's resources, and it has a SEO toolkit. I'm dropping in the chat right now. It has an SEO toolkit. And so again, I feel like I've emphasized this plenty of times throughout this course, but want to reiterate again that everything I'm teaching here is, for the most part, I mean, there are some novel perspectives, like as a Black woman, that I've discovered, but you're welcome, Sheridan, but for the most part, all of this information can be dug deeper into online by just using certain search terms like SEO, and SEO stands for search engine optimization. And so again, just be thinking about how people are finding your website, how to establish yourself as an authority, because when we all go to Google, I'm sure we are looking at that first result and that second result as like, you know, those top few results as some of the most credible items. And we don't even know, we're just assuming that because Google has ranked it at the top. And so this is just me wanting to encourage you to play the game here and to just think about how these search engines we call them crawlers, how their crawlers are searching the internet, searching web pages, literally reading, scanning web pages is what they do. That's why I encourage that it be a header so that it's easier for the crawler to find, and are pulling that data from those crawlers. So play the game by just having your keywords as either menu items or headers on your homepage. All right, so this came from you all just saying that you want to dig deeper into the boilerplate. And so I'm going to pass it back over to you to come off mute and let me know what it is about the boilerplate for those who responded in such a way that you want to get deeper into. And I will pause and wait for response. At least 3 of you put boilerplate as something you want to dig back into. So somebody, because if not, we're going to skip back over it. So this is your time to speak your piece. So if you don't have any more questions about boilerplate, I'll keep moving, but 3 of you all did.
Now, Bria, I wasn't one of the people that put a boilerplate, but I do have a request if possible. I think if you don't mind taking maybe 2-minute quick highlight, if you have it with you in front of you, the presentation, because as we see, we have at least maybe 3-4 new faces in front of us from this series that may not even know what we mean by boilerplate. So do a quick kind of, do you have questions about that?
Sure. So what I'll say is a boilerplate is essentially your about paragraph. So think about what's at the top of your website on your about page that is like your story that includes where you were founded, when you were founded, the services and products that you provide. What's your organization's mission? Like, for example, thinking about Tasha, her whole thing is about texting while not distracted. Or from one of our publishing friends, it's about encouraging young girls to have some sort of leadership development. So think about what your mission is. Are you trying to empower people? Are you know, whatever it might be, and you may not have a specific one in that regard. Might be something to consider developing. Also include within that boilerplate, and this is really just a paragraph here, literally a paragraph. We just have a fancy name for it. You want to include any awards that you may have received, any honors, maybe even mentioned in the New York Times or whatever sort of thing. Shout out to you, Sheridan, for your Raleigh feature. Lovely imagery, great story. And so I say that to say, whenever you all do have publicity, we as the community do see it. And so this whole process is all about building up, you crafting and creating your brand story so that it's that much easier to share. So another way to think about this boilerplate is if no one knew anything about your business and you only had 4 sentences or maybe 5, you know, to tell them about your business and your business line, you call them your verticals, as I mentioned, your mission, your major milestones, that is your boilerplate. And the boilerplate, again, can be used on the homepage as like an about paragraph, but primarily for what we're talking about, it is used at the bottom of press releases, so that as you're sending out your media opportunities, or whether it's communicating to the media that you're about to launch your product, you're having a grand opening, you just partnered with a major organization, Chris Paul is one of your investors, whatever it might be, as you're crafting that news at the bottom of that, so that those media who may never have heard of your organization can know what you're about. So that is a boilerplate. So I did include here, and I included it here primarily because I know that the Hustle team is going to share this out. 2 examples from established organizations, because I want you all to know that every major company has this. Like, you should absolutely have a boilerplate. Like, they're like, quite frankly, this is me being a business minded here. There's no excuse. You absolutely need an about paragraph. It needs to be on your homepage. It's this idea of even I think about like Instagram bios or like that LinkedIn headline. If you don't put very prescriptive information in there, I have no idea who you are and what you're about. And that's when people can start making up stuff and filling in blanks. And so the whole point of you drafting this boilerplate, of you drafting that about paragraph, is to make sure that your brand story is what you want told. Absolutely, that the boilerplate is a part of the template of the press release. So I encourage anyone, I'm saying this to the people on Facebook, literally Google, and I shared it in the last a previous session, but I just don't feel like going to find the link now. Literally Google press release template. And I keep emphasizing this idea, you can literally go to Google and find lots and lots of resources around this. I'm just helping talk you through it. But the boilerplate, again, this is the idea of if somebody in New York, a media professional in New York City, gets your press release and reads it and has no idea who your company is, that boilerplate is there to say who you are. So absolutely. Otherwise, you're just a random company that's having a random event and they have no context around who you are and why this is important.
And I just want to jump in and say she's saying absolutely to the question from Facebook about should press release have the boilerplate in it.
Thank you, Magali. All right, now, again, 3 of you all have questions about boilerplate. I'm going to move on to media lists and press releases if there are no more explicit questions about this. Again, it's really just a formula of these sort of items and ending with contact information, and just think about the story that you want told. All right. Okay. Who can write about me? Several, I think maybe another 3 of you might have put, or maybe it was just one, but building a media list as something that they wanted to cover. So to whoever that was, if you could please either come off mute or drop it in the chat, how can we help you with your media list questions?
I believe that was me, Tasha.
Great, Tasha. How can we help?
Yeah, I was trying to decide like what kind. I have like media stuff, so I wanted to understand how to use it on my website.
Well, quite frankly, you can certainly do an in the news page. It's going to take some building development. Let me pull up a good example. When I worked for Innovation Quarter, they were always very, very diligent about this. So there's kind of 2 ways to do it. One is you can have the links themselves there, or you can just say that it happened. So forgive me as I'm just literally going on to a different website to sort of show you how other people are using it. Okay, let me, sure thing. Let me do a new share to this window. All right. So Innovation Quarter, they've got a lot of money on marketing, so it doesn't have to be this pretty, but essentially all they literally just have a page, and I clicked on news and stories, and I clicked on news and media. So you could just have something that said, for example, in the news, or I prefer in the news, just thinking about SEO versus like press. I think people are often more so looking for the term news than press. So you can literally just call it in the news. And then you can just link to each of these press releases. So if I click on one of, here we go. If I click on this WXII feature, it'll take me to the WXII page. So I would encourage you to not house these pieces, wherever you're featured on your website. You really want to link to, so you really want to link to wherever it is. That also helps with your SEO rankings as well. The more, the more websites besides your own that point to your website, the higher you get ranked. So you also want to be pointing to other people's websites as well. So this is one way to do it. The other way, and this is something that I'm about to show y'all some secret sauce right here, because I'm rebuilding my company's page. That's why it's called staging. And so what I did, instead of actually linking the articles, was I just put logos. And all I did was essentially say, hey, and realizing I need to fix this Bloomberg one, to say, hey, we've been featured in these places, and left it there. So it's up to you how thorough you want to be in terms of linking, actually having a link to the article on your website, or if you just want to say, hey, we've just been featured by the Winston-Salem Journal, and leave it there. So that's one way to do it in terms of on your website, then of course to promote it on social media. Yes, Ms. Magali. You're very welcome.
Yeah, I have a question about you know, when you were showing the in the news versus news and press, that option. I heard you say it's better to link it so that it goes to the native page or site of wherever it is. Does the same thing apply if it's like a video from a media, not a media, but like well, I guess it's still media, but like a YouTube or Vimeo? Like, is it better to link it to that source, or is it better to embed it into your site? If somebody did, like, let's just say a YouTube journalist decided to do a story on you versus like, you know, WXII or something, and that's where it lives.
Yeah, so it really depends on your personal goals. So what I'll say is I'm thinking about particular websites like LinkedIn, and forgive me, I'll talk about like properly owned properties like the website, but certain websites will autoplay the video if it's native. So for example, like on LinkedIn, if you just link to the video, it won't autoplay. But if you literally upload that video onto LinkedIn, it will autoplay and like build you more views like by default because it's autoplaying. So part of it, so it's really a question of, for example, do you want people to stay on your website and to like keep looking, or are you okay with them being thrown over to the other site. Personally, I would lean toward throwing it over just for the sake of establishing authority. And that's the whole point of last week, right? This idea of when you can use other people's platforms to like talk about yourself or have other people's platforms talk about you. That's what establishes authority. So I would more so recommend that you embed on your website your own videos. So the videos that Hustle has made about Hustle or Sew In has made about Sew In. So even on my personal website, the only videos I have up there are my YouTube videos. I don't have my like Spectrum Voices of Change feature. I don't have like any of those sort of like news stuff, but I do have that on my in the news page. So I would just encourage you to just think about your website as like your story and like what you are saying about yourself, and then letting and using other people's pages and platforms to let them say what they're going to say about you.
That's helpful. Thank you. And there's a follow-up question from Facebook that I'm not quite sure. Lorena, you may need to type some more, but it says why some people are using Vimeo versus YouTube. So I'm not quite sure what that question is in relation to that. So Lorena, if there's more you can say to that on Facebook, let us know. And,
well, I think what she's just asking is if there's a particular value in using Vimeo versus YouTube, and I don't think there is, quite frankly. They both have analytics, so I would, Lorraine, what I would do is I would dig into what analytics Vimeo is able to give, because they can tell you where people are in the world that watch the video, how long they watched it for, when they clicked off, how they got there. And YouTube has very similar analytics, so it's really about what pieces of data you're looking for, and if one of those platforms has specific data and just gravitating toward that. Otherwise, what I'll say is that YouTube is fantastic for like search, because YouTube is like under the Google umbrella. So again, as we're thinking about SEO keywords, if you just want people to just find you, right? People use YouTube the way they use the google.com. Like just to search a thing, how to tie a tie, how to, and Tasha, that's what I was saying about the truck drivers, what it's like to be a Black women truck drivers. Like there's so much content around that. So that is what I'll say is the key value of YouTube, is that people are really searching for things using search terms, which you're going to establish once you do that SEO exercise. And so you're really able to drive traffic using those search terms versus Vimeo, which I personally have noticed that people aren't so, unless you're a creative, like unless you are a filmmaker, you aren't really so much browsing on Vimeo, but it's great to house videos. So in general, I'll say you can certainly house your videos on YouTube, house them on Vimeo, and like in terms of uploading them, or excuse me, in terms of embedding them on your website or featuring them on social media, you won't see a key difference. But I think that the YouTube will drive more audience, like new audience to your video than Vimeo will. I think I can say that confidently.
And Abria,
Yes,
this is Carol. I have a question. Put it in the chat, and I didn't know if you get to that, but if you link to an article that requires a subscription, how negative is that?
Yeah, I will say, Carol, I really despise gated material. It really, really irks me. Here's the sort of kind of key thing. What you can do on your website potentially is, now I'm tempted to pull up the IQ page again, because they do that, is have a small summary, if you will. Like literally take like those first 3-4 lines, or even just kind of create your own summary, like your own sort of personal takeaways that you want your audience to know, and include that and link to the full source. But Carol, I am with you. I despise linking to gated material. So that is a great question.
Thank you.
Yes, certainly. Oh, and what I'll also say is that sometimes if you're a subscriber, and this is a true loophole here, if you're a subscriber to some of those publications, often you can get a unique link that like anybody can view. So I know, for example, if you have a New York Times subscription, the link that you get going into your browser and copy that URL will somehow be public. So sometimes just see where you can, Carol, find those loopholes of like where you can access it, and even take a screenshot. Worst case scenario, right? If you really want people to read it, I'm serious. Like if you really, really want people to read it, pull out some key quotes from that piece. Again, write a summary and feature that instead. But great question.
Thank you.
Since we're giving tips and tricks that we probably shouldn't be giving, but this is outside the box and we want you to succeed. Something else to think about, Carol, and anyone else that may have that concern or issue. If you have access to Safari, which is, the Apple browser, the reader view. So a lot of times these subscription only or things that you can't read, if you click on reader view on Safari, it will show you the full article. That's one of the benefits that Apple somehow has worked into these subscription models. So if you click reader view, you will likely be able to read the article.
I had no idea. No idea.
Now,
Me neither.
I would say it works 90% of the time. There are some articles that
Wow.
are protected beyond protected, and they just did not agree with that on Apple. But most of the other ones, yes, you can do that. So that's just an FYI for everyone.
Thank you.
Abria,
Yeah.
you have one more question regarding media list, but before that, Carrie, just to answer your question, will you receive a recording of this? Yes, you all received the link to the live of this. If you need the recording itself, you can email Hustle at hustlewsinfo@gmail. We're happy to send you this actual recording, but we typically just send the live link as well as the presentation itself. So there's that answer. But Abria, you had one more question. This one also came from Facebook that I put in the chat. What should be included in a media list?
So I added this line over here at the bottom right corner of the slide, just essentially to say who is on your list. So it's not what to include, it's who to include. The media list is literally a list of people and organizations. So whether it is social media stars who work in your realm, first and ask that question, forgive me, I don't know what your realm is, so I can't be a bit more prescriptive here. But if you're product, services, and beauty, who are the social media influencers who work in beauty, who are talking to your target audience? Who are the bloggers who are in beauty and trucking and NFTs who are talking about these things, the thought leaders? What publications are talking about these things? So think about your realm. So I'm sure that, like, for example, there are magazines like TechWire, but then there are art magazines, and there are all types of industry and trade publications. So think about what that looks like specifically for you. And again, I don't know your business, so I can't give an example. And then lastly, I'm going to think about locality. So where are you? What local media outlets are there? So your WXIIs, your Winston-Salem journals, your Yes Weeklies, your City Beats, your Spectrum News. Those are the people that you want to be including on your media list. So for that person, I would encourage, something tells me you might not have been with us on that previous week. So I would encourage you to go back to week 2 and look at this section, because we definitely took a lot of time talking about who to put on our media list. And I just encourage you to ask yourself, what realms am I in? Who are my target customers, and which influencers, publications, outlets, etc. are talking to those people? And that is who you want to include on your media list. And you find their information, quite frankly, by simply Google Spectrum News, North Carolina email, WXII news tips email, I'm making something up, or even for social media stars, DM them, reply to their comments, or reply to their story, establish that line of communication. So that is who, not what, but who you put on your media list.
I have a question. I missed
Certainly.
the first week, and you did have a slide or two, but can we get a copy of the one about it begins with a B? My head is going blank. It's been a really crazy morning.
Boilerplate, yeah, so that was in the first week's, and this will also be in this week's as well. Is that what you're referring to, Carrie?
I missed the first week, so I'm asking, is there a way to get previous links, or no?
Yes, that's what Magali is mentioning, that all of the previous weeks are available on Facebook, and they're uploading them to YouTube as well. So yes, and they should also have been, they should also get emailed to you. So the other Hustle, Tasha, I know you're listening, and that the people are wanting maybe all 4 weeks to be included in this next email. Thanks, Carrie.
Even if I didn't attend, I can still have it.
Correct. So
absolutely.
Carrie and everyone, just as a quick reminder, our practice at Hustle when it comes to the presentations and the recordings, we send it every week. So you'll get that week, and then the next week you get that week and the week before. So we're in week 4 of this series. So you will get this week and all 3 weeks before it in the email that you get for this week's session. So just to clarify for everyone, we do send it to you and you will have it. And it'll come from the hustleWSinfo@gmail.com, which Tasha manages and will send to you. So hopefully that clarifies and that's helpful.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay, and I see that
Great.
there's a request to drop the Small Business Center Facebook page. I will drop that as well as Hustle's Facebook page in the chat for you all shortly. Abria, I do have a follow-up question or comment maybe to what you said regarding the media list. And I'm 1000% sure you did cover this during week 2, and I just kind of want to ask it again for the people. Does someone have to be connected to a media outlet to be added to your media list? Like, can your media
Like
list,
meaning say the question one more time.
so like, let's remove your previous role with Innovation Court and all of that. Let's just assume that didn't exist. And you're just a Bria local celebrity. You people just know you. Would it make
Okay, so I would say the answer is no, unless they have a platform.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because that's the whole point, is you're sharing this news with media so they can amplify it. Like, you share it with me, I'm gonna send you a text and be like, congratulations, etc.
So
but I don't.
are
Go ahead.
social media influencers considered a platform?
Absolutely. That's the whole thing, is the idea of influencers. I just wouldn't consider myself one, but and this is why I'm saying that there are people
local celebrity.
No. Trust me. I know what an influencer is, and the influencer, trust me, I'm not one. So trust me. What I'll say is, think about who has an audience. So, but an audience that is specifically related to your target audience. So I might have a lot of followers, but they may not be the followers that are going to buy your product or service. So I would just encourage you to send or to include on your media list the people that you know have a platform and who will amplify the efforts. Now, I will say that there are people like, even though I know he's changing roles, and congratulations, like an Alan Younger, who because he builds that Versailles Tech Small Business Center email, because he has his own sort of network, he actually has a platform, right? That even though he's not a media professional, could certainly be of consideration. So, but I would say above all else, you're really just thinking about people who have an audience and have a platform, not just people that you want to know what's going on. It's people who can amplify this message to a greater audience. That address your question enough, Magali?
Yes, I really wanted to make sure everybody understood when you were saying to build that list, that, not just your friend who know people. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, unless you and your friend got some sort of understanding that your friend is willing to put some ad dollars behind, what I'll say is your best effort was going to be most efficient, the best use of your time, or focusing on people who do this for a living, who are literally out there looking. WXI, when they wake up in the morning, they don't know what they're going to broadcast tomorrow. They are waiting for your tips to come in so that they know what to do. Or Winston-Salem Journal, I'm sure they have some things on the editorial calendar, but for the most part, they're waiting for a murder to happen or a court case, or what I'm saying. And so we, as the people, as a community, really are what media professionals are waiting for. They want to hear from us because they want to keep their job. They want to keep the news fresh. And so they are very much looking for these press releases. So I'm glad that we can dive deeper into that. And so I want to say that maybe 3 of you as well might have put press releases as something you wanted to recover. So again, please feel free to, and for those who were not here in previous weeks, we went deep into press releases. So I would encourage you to go back, I think this was week 1, to go back to week 1 and take a look at this. And if you have follow-up questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Magali. Sorry, because I'm just at a certain point where Bria needs her money. So don't be yeah, I can only take so many questions. So press releases, whoever those people were, please feel free to come off mute, put in the chat and let us know what it was about press releases that you wanted to recover or get clarity around. And actually, while you all are doing that, Magali, forgive me for using you as an example here, but you did such a great job on writing the 2020 virtual party release that I did want to include it as an example. And again, you all will get these slides. So I encourage you to like dig, to really read this thoroughly after this is over, but I wanted to make sure it was included here. Magali wrote this herself. And sent it out to whoever she felt like. Oh, you're asking Sheridan. I mean, sometimes it just depends on if you have new news. That's the key. If you have new news, then yes. But if you're just doing the same thing and nothing's really happening, then no. But otherwise, that's where that whole relationship thing, forgive me, I'm answering Sheridan's question from the chat team. But otherwise, you're actually building a relationship. And so you will get, that's where the whole making yourself authority, having those authentic relationships comes into play here, because they can bring you in for, like, for essential, your thought leadership. So let's say it's Small Business Saturday and they need to talk to an entrepreneur, they'll think of you. And so maybe maybe it's not that you have an event, but they just need an entrepreneur to talk about, to give some sort of commentary on this. Otherwise, it's all about keeping it fresh. So whether it's a new product, grand opening, new investors, like they're not going to talk about the same thing more than once. That's what I will say. But they are certainly willing to talk about the same companies, especially for those in the community. Like, people love to see growth in human stories. So as I think about like follow-up stories in particular, that's where a lot of opportunity is locally.
And then
so press release, go ahead, Max, I'm sorry.
I have a question. I think it is about press releases, but you can continue with this and then I'll ask my question because you might answer it.
Sure. So I really just wanted to include this because I wanted you all to see what a press release looked like from somebody that you knew. And as you know, Magali does not have a large team to help her write this. So I want you to know that you can do this yourself, just like she does it for herself and I do it for myself. And all she did was follow the template. And Lord, week 1, I include a snapshot of a template. But again, I encourage you to go to Google and literally just say press release template, and 5,000 results will come up and they're all going to pretty much say the same thing. And it's a formula and you just fill it in. So what you'll see here, what I wanted to illuminate though, in particular, was the fact that there is a quote. You see how this particular one is for me. See how there is a quote included here. You see how the dates and times of the specific event are included. You see how the specific parties, so the Urban Young Professionals, NAACP, Millennial Night. And then at the end, you see the boilerplate. And this is really why I'm bringing it up. It's this idea of everyone has a story and has something they can put here. Again, I left this here so you all can read it more thoroughly after this is over. But know that there's just a simple structure and all you have to do is just drop it into the formula. This is there we go. Go ahead, Max.
I think my question around press releases is, and you talked about this during the week 1, but kind of the timeliness of it. One thing that I've learned in my experience, I don't think I've learned it, I think I'm still figuring it out, is when you send press releases the day of, because that's when it's important, versus doing a press release in advance because they need to know it in advance. I don't think I've mastered that. And if you have any tips or tricks or advice around that, I think that'd be helpful.
So I would say it really depends on when you want the media push to be. So for example, it also depends on the event itself. So for example, if it is an actual event, and so really you're more so drafting a media opportunity, meaning an opportunity for the media to come to you and tape and shoot and film and interview in real life. That should be done, I'd probably say like at least 48 hours in advance. Like if you want some people to come someplace, you can do that. Okay. And so let me just stop there. If there is a timely event, you needs to be at least 48 hours before, or else they can't put into, because they have their little morning meeting and they make their schedule and they're like, okay, this photographer is going to go here at this time, then they're going to go here, then you're going to go do the package and that sort of thing. So if it's a timely event, emphasis on event, media opportunity that you want, cameras, act, 48 hours. if you send it, and I know this isn't what you're talking about with this question, or send it afterwards. Otherwise, if you send it later, like send it day of, you send it after the event, null and void. What you can certainly do after, or maybe not so like immediately or day of, is if you have a product launch or just a general announcement, just something that you want people to know about. So I would say, if there's any, speaking of gated material, like if there's anything that you're not going to release until like 12 p.m. on a certain day, put that in your press release, send it ahead of time, but just be like, hey, this thing won't be available for public viewing until this time. And then the media can make the decision on how they want to handle that. So you also want to give them a certain amount of liberty around how they want to cover you. So though that would be the sort of primary. So if it's not event related, you can probably send it after, but otherwise, if it's like a product launch or, and I'll talk about immediate release, or a company partnership or something that is lit, there's no hard day or time for it, like you're not having like a press conference or the like, you can certainly send it day of, and that's when it says media release. So the idea of, okay, something, let me pull back up. I don't think I copied it on this version, but often what you'll see for the group here is something, sometimes it'll say like for immediate release, or not for public release until X date. And what that essentially means is you're giving the media a sneak preview. So this is part of building relationships here, some quid pro quo of, if the media feels like you're giving them, and that everybody wants their scoop, everybody wants a sort of edge on, a piece of insight that other media outlets don't have. That's what they're looking for. So if you, let's say, establish a relationship with somebody, or even not even, and you just say, hey, we're not going to tell people that Chris Paul is coming to this thing, or Chris Paul is an investor in my thing until this day, for whatever reason. Often it'll be because you're going to do like a huge release, like something like really, really big, like there's an event or a product reveal, or like some sort of something. That's normally when you would like really send it ahead of time, so that they have a sort of scoop and they're like, oh, this is special. Not everybody knows about this. Like, how can we develop special coverage? Otherwise, for things like your general product launch, your general business news, I would say just do it as immediate release. Again, unless there is something timely keeping you from that. I know that was a lot of information, but high level, if it's a media opportunity and you want the media to actually physically come somewhere, make sure it's 48 hours before. And that you wouldn't necessarily say like immediate release or release for later, because it's literally just an invitation. And write this down: Google media opportunity template. I don't have time to cover it today, but know that is something very, very similar to press releases. But all you're doing is encouraging the media to come to a certain place at a certain time, versus just letting them know, versus just informing them of this thing happening.
And you said Google media opportunity template.
Yep. Just like press release template. Yep. Boilerplate template, media list template, media pitch template. And that's why I really want to emphasize that there are so many great resources on the internet. I'm just really giving it to you high level. And last week, I'm so glad that we talked about this thoroughly, but steps to send. So once you get that press release, once you draft it, like how do you get it, flowing through the system? And so it's the idea of, you're going to build that press release with email addresses. You're going to draft that press release talking about that product launch, that new partnership, that grand opening, whatever it is. And then you're going to craft that email pitch. And did I include it here? I know I drafted one last time, but let me make a note to myself to drop in the slide of a sample email pitch to media. That is also something you can easily Google. Drop in media pitch example. So you're going to send it to them, and then you're just going to wait for a reply. You're going to wait for them to be like, oh, that sounds great. Expect to see it in Wednesday's edition. Or that sounds great. We'll be there at 8 p.m. like you told us to. And then from there, you're just going to amplify whatever that publicity is on your social media, have your employees send it, etc. And we talked about this last week in terms of building authority, and for things like guest columns, you're going to also build that media list and consider which of those outlets has an opportunity for your voice or for additional commentary. So call them guest writers, guest columns, opt-eds. The Winston-Salem Journal does these. I'm serious, y'all. The Winston-Salem Journal is big on this. The Winston-Salem Chronicle is big on this. You all could email them today with an opt-in idea, and I promise you they will reply. Like if they don't, like, email me and I will give you $20, but I promise you they will reply with enthusiasm. So really be thinking about what is your area of expertise. We are all experts, because if you weren't an expert, you shouldn't be having a business in it. So we are all experts in whatever we are doing. So just be considering what expertise you have to share and what outlets would be interesting in hearing that expertise. So again, I will drop in the sample of an email pitch that I wrote that was in last week's presentation, but it's very simple, of just a greeting, let them know what's going on. This is your news. This is why it's timely. This is why your reader's life will be affected. Here's who you can interview. I'm available for interview. I also have a customer who's available for interview. I got an investor available for interview, whatever, and wait for them to reply. Fact sheets. All right, because I know we're coming up to time. A lot of you put company and product fact sheets on here. Please take yourself off of mute and let us know what you would like clarity around. So everyone is feeling confident in being able to build one of these for yourselves?
Ish.
Right, yes. What I'll say is, Carrie, quite frankly, a lot of this is an iterative process. And this is also something that you can look for a template. That's how I found these, was just Google company fact sheet example, or company fact sheet template, product fact sheet template, product fact sheet example. And literally pick and choose from other people's company fact sheets, like the sort of visualizations and things that you want to pull out. Carrie, you're very kind. So for example, you'll see that they've got looking at the one on the left side, the backpack, they've got some places where you can buy it. They got free key partners, they got their acquisition channels, they got their milestones, and they also have, for lack of a better term, their boilerplate, but in a slightly briefer, but their boilerplate up top. And so that's why I really emphasize this idea of getting that boilerplate right, because you're going to use it in so many places, and know that it is also an iterative process, and that boilerplate can change, and it will change. But having a sort of small paragraph about your company, what you do, who you stand for, and what you've done and hope to do is always super helpful. Okay, team, you know that this was your class, and so I wanted to go back over these things since you all requested it. But if there are no further questions, I plan to do, and we can still take like 3 minutes and do this. I want everyone to consider the items that they are struggling with the most. And I'm going to go back to the original slide that kind of has a lot of them listed. Think about what you are struggling with the most, identify that, and just make a note to yourself that that's what you need to revisit. So everybody just take a second to say, what do I need to revisit, and write it down. Additionally, you can also use this time to think about next steps and say, hey, okay, well, what am I going to do first? Am I going to write that boilerplate first? Am I going to start building my media list by like going through my social media channels and a local network to consider, what outlets there are? Are you going to work on your SEO optimization? Also note there are a lot of firms like people tell you something. If I were to start a new company, I'd probably do it super niche and like start an SEO company. So note there are people who literally do that for a living as well, that are available for hire. But as I included in the chat, there are lots of free resources for that. So be thinking about what you want to work on, and also thinking about what is next for you.
And while you're writing those down, and before we end our 4 minutes together today, I want to kind of button this up a little bit and remind you all, all of the information and knowledge and tools and tactics and everything that Abria has shared over the last 4 weeks, as she have mentioned many times, you can find elsewhere if you need more detail beyond what was shared in 4 weeks. However, I do think she prepared you all really well if you go back and rewatch any of the video recordings and the presentations to feel confident to manage some of your PR on your own. That's the big idea here with marketing outside the box, marketing within a budget. I think you could manage it based on what Abria said. And then ultimately, the bigger idea with this series was thinking about PR and how it ultimately could impact, hopefully positively, your bottom line of your business. So just keep in mind that through line. There is a through line of using public relations to make sure your business is exposed to your potential customer and audience. You'll probably maintain your customers. You'll probably gain new customers in the process. And ultimately that does have an impact, again, hopefully positively on your bottom line. So just thinking about it that way, full circle, as you're building and growing your business.
Yep, and I know we're hitting at 128, and that's what it's all about, is just really saying, where is your audience? Who, meaning your target customers, who is already talking to those people, and then how can your voice be put on those platforms and reach? That's literally a marketing term. How can you increase your reach through publicity, through established outlets? So I hope everyone has a game plan in terms of, okay, this is what I'm going to dig into a little further, find some other online resources on, and okay, this is what I'm going to do next. Like, I think each and every one of you can start writing your boilerplate now, if you haven't already. And for example, someone mentioned that they were starting a home-based business. I think that, because it wasn't specified, I would really encourage you to think about where, Marva, I would encourage you to think about that boilerplate and getting a bit more prescriptive about what your business is. Even though I'm sure, and then here's the thing, we all know what our business is. We all know who our target customers are. We just need to communicate that to people. So we got 1 minute left. Mackley usually has stuff to drop. Yes. And so what I'll say about local TV channels, and we went through this last week, so I encourage you to look at week 3, but literally Google WXI news tips, email, you will find it. Spectrum North Carolina news tips, email. Fucking 102 jams, news tips, email, whatever. I just like Google it, it'll be there. So so please let me know. I'm always happy to take on new clients, and we can really do this together. As I mentioned, shameless plug here. And so if there's anything that you want to work on together, we can certainly do that. Otherwise, check out the previous weeks and whatever online resources are available. Thanks, Magali.
Yes, no problem at all. Thank you. And to that last question, it's literally, she walked you step by step how to do that in last week's presentation. So make sure you catch that about how you find that contact list when you watch last week's presentation. So we are right at 1:30. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Everybody give a virtual round of applause to Abria. This 4 weeks has been amazing as we think about public relations for our businesses. So thank you so much, Abria. It's really wonderful that you can serve in this way. To everyone else, for those that are interested, same time, same place. The month of March, we are covering TikTok. I think I mentioned this in the beginning, but really, how do you use TikTok for your business, no matter what generation you're in? I, for one, will be learning a whole lot during that series, because TikTok is still fairly new to me as a millennial, and we do have a Gen Zer coming to teach it to us. So we'll have a Gen Z with us because they are excelling at it, and he will teach it to us through the entire month of March. So have your questions ready, or just be ready to build your TikTok. We're going to help you set one up. And if you already have one, we're going to help you make sure that it's working for your business. So that is a 5-week session for the month of March that will dive deep into TikTok. So Have a great rest of your week. Tasha with Hustle will make sure that you get today's presentation and the presentations for the last 3 weeks. The presentations will include Abria's contact information if it is something you want to reach out to her and hire her for as it relates to public relations or have additional questions. Maybe you just want to hire her as a consultant. Not sure. That's going to be between you and her, but we definitely encourage you using her as a resource. So everyone have a great rest of the week, and I will see y'all next week.
Thanks for joining me, everyone. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.